So when you open Photoshop newly, this is the interface you are going to receive. Okay, you are seeing these images because I've already worked with Photoshop, but then if you are new, you are not going to see any of these documents available to you here. This place is going to be empty, right? Because I've worked with Photoshop before, you can see all these new documents. Now let me just give an example. So for instance, if I am to open this particular image, with Photoshop, just as you can see, if I'm to open this image with Photoshop, right, and I am to go to the home page again, you can see that is the first image that will show here, right? So this is just your home page where every work you've done would automatically be saved, right? Okay, so now to start a new project in Photoshop or to start using Photoshop, you don't work here. Okay, you work on what we call the workspace, right? Workspace, just as the name suggests. Okay, so you can start creating documents by going to new file, and then you select the dimension of the file that you want to use. So let's say I want to use this dimension, so I'll just click here and click on create, right? And when you click on create, this is the interface that you are going to see as a Photoshop person, right? This is the interface you are going to see, and it just works like you being an artist or a painter. Okay, you definitely need things like your tools, things like your canvas to work on, and a lot, and I'm going to tackle all those things shortly in this video, right? So Photoshop is divided into three panels, right, or three tools, and we have the first part to be the toolbar. This place is the toolbar, right? We have our canvas. This is our workspace. This is where we are going to actually work. Okay, so this is the canvas, and then we have our panel bar, right? This is our panel bar. This place will show you the layers that you have available and all those things, right? We'll get into all those things very soon, but I just want you to get familiar with these things. Okay, it's just divided into three spaces. We have the tool, we have the canvas, and we have the panel. Okay, again, it is subdivided into bars, right? And then we have the menu bar up here, the menu bar. And what does the menu bar? The menu bar, just as in a restaurant, will just give you the things that you can do with Photoshop. Okay, so you order something from Photoshop. That is how it works. So for instance, if I want let's say to select something, I can just go to select and I can see all the options I have here. If I want a filter, I can go here and then I'll look for any filter that I want here, right? So basically that is what the toolbar does, right? And when we come to the option bar, the option bar is just options for the tool that you select. Okay, so take it as if you're a painter and then you want to paint, right? So you select this paint and then you select this paint. So after selecting this paint, you want to start painting on this canvas. Let me change the color. I'll teach you all those things real short. So I'll change the color to this. So I start to paint, right? I can see that it's not how bright I want it to be. Okay, so this option bar here, which is below the menu bar, okay, is what would give me the chance to manipulate that particular tool that I've selected. Okay, so for instance, I want to increase the opacity. I can increase the opacity to 100 and let's see the change. Okay, so you see, if I increase the opacity to 100, you can clearly see the difference between these two things, right? You can clearly see the difference, right? Similarly, if I want to decrease the opacity, I can do same, right? So you can see the difference, right? So that is what the option bar does. If you select any particular tool, it's going to give you the available options that you have for that particular tool, right? It's going to give you that particular options you have for that particular tool. And then the last bar that we have in Photoshop is the status bar, which is down here. Okay, so the status bar basically gives you status about the canvas you are using, or gives you information about the work you are doing on your canvas, right? So for instance, if you go to the document dimension, you can see this is the dimension we are using down here, 677.33 mm times 381 mm. Okay, this is the dimension of the canvas that we are using right here. You get what I'm trying to say? Exactly. So now let's tackle the tools, because those are the things that you'd be working with. Okay, so let me first of all explain the canvas and I'll explain the panel before I come and explain the toolbar, because this is what you'll be using most often, the toolbar, right? So the canvas is basically your workspace, so anything that you do would be on your canvas. Okay, so for instance, if we have this project, these things are on my canvas, right? These things that you can see are on my canvas. So this picture is on my canvas, right? So I can choose to move it, I can choose to do anything to it on this canvas. You get what I'm trying to say? Exactly. So for instance, if let's say I'm to drag an image, right? If another way that you can open a file in Photoshop is by going to your image and then right clicking, and then you click on open with, and then go to Photoshop, okay? Or you can just drag it and then drop it to your timeline, and then it's going to be on your timeline, right? So just as I'm saying, this is the canvas that you are working on, okay? So just think about it as a painter or an artist, okay? You want to paint a picture, so this is just that board that you're working on, basically that, and then nothing really fancy about this, right? Now let's go to the panel section, okay? So the panel basically gives you information about what is happening on the canvas, right? So for instance, looking here, when I come to layers, which is here, this layers panel, you can clearly see that there's this layer on this particular canvas, okay? So on my background, I have this particular layer on top of this canvas, yes? So if I'm to turn this eye here, if I'm to turn it off, you can clearly see that I have nothing. If I turn it on, I have something there. But maybe some of you might have your Photoshop set differently, so I want us to all be on the same page. So if, let's say, your Photoshop is different from what I have here, you can just go to Windows, and then you go to workspace, and then you click on reset essentials. So when you do this, it's going to make your Photoshop similar to what I have here, right? So it's going to make your Photoshop similar to what I have here. Basically in the panel 2, I don't really use a lot. I just use the layers. I use the how should I say it, the properties, the history, and other stuff, okay? So let's say if you don't want something on your layers panel, what you can do is you can just drag it out like this, and then you hit this exit button, okay, and it's gone. So you can drag it out like this, hit the exit button, and then it's gone. Let me just do another example for you to try. So I don't want this pattern, so I can just drag it out, hit on it, and then it's gone. And let's say I want the history, okay? I want the history of whatever I'm doing here, right? I can just go here, and then it will give me the history of whatever I'm doing here, right? Also, if let's say there are some panels that you are supposed to see here, but then you are not seeing, you can just go to workspace, and then when you scroll down, you can see all these things, right? So it's up to you to just click it on. So I want to see the properties of whatever I'm doing here, so I'll just click on properties, and you can see when I click on properties, it has now shown here, right? So I can drag this property layer and then make it a sub layer here, right? So with the panel, it's just about you dragging and then putting it in here. It's very simple, right? You can just drag and then put it in here, right? Exactly. That is how the panel works. That is how the panel works, right? And then here is the layer. So the layer is basically you drawing, okay? So it's like what you draw first, what you draw next, what you draw first, what you draw next. I don't know if you get a concept, okay? Let me try and bring an image in. So let's say I want to bring this image in. So if I bring this image in right now, you can see that it's stacked on top of the first layer, okay? Because when you look at these layer panels here, this is beneath it. If I reverse it and I bring this one up, and I just brought it up by double clicking and then dragging it up, okay, you can now see that this one is on top of that layer, right? Again, if I want to bring the background, I can do this and bring the background up, and then both disappear. It's not like they are gone, but then the layers, okay, one is stacked on top of one, and that is how it works. You get it? So for instance, we want to bring those two back, so you just click on them, bring this one back, and it's on top. Bring this one back as well, and it's on top. So that is how the layers work, okay? There are more videos on YouTube that you can learn about this panel layer, but then because of time, I just want to get you started with Photoshop. So let's just move on. So I believe I've explained this and again, let's say if I want to type something, let's say I type, let me undo these panels here. So let's say I type subscribe. So subscribe. So if I type subscribe, let me enlarge it. So I can enlarge it by opening it like this. So if I type this subscribe button, okay, you can see that this subscribe button is now a new layer on its own. You see, that's how it works. So if I want to bring the let me turn this one on and then do something. If I want to bring the subscribe button behind this, I can just drag it on the layer panel down. You see, and then it will move down. You see, it's not like it's gone, but then it's down. Is beneath the layer on top. You see, so that's how the layer works. It's like what you draw first, okay? So let me bring it back on top. So I'll hold the subscribe button and then drag it up on top. So just as you can see, the subscribe button is now up here, right? Okay, so now we want to get information about the subscribe. Okay, maybe we want to change the color, we want to change I don't know, but then you want to change something about this, you just go to its properties, okay, and that is found here because we've now brought it here. If you can't see it, you just go to Windows and then you check on properties, which is here. You just click on properties and then it will show here, okay. So you just go to properties, and then this can give us the ability to change the type of fonts that we are using. So just as you can see, there are a lot of fonts in Photoshop and a lot of fonts that you can install as well. So just as you can see, I'm changing the font as preferred, right? So let's say I want this sample, so I want this one. Okay, you can change if it's italic, bold, anyhow you want to do it. All right, let's make it regular. Okay, you can change the color by hitting on the, let me go back, by hitting on this color here, and then you change the color. So you can manipulate it to blue, green. Do you get it? So this is basically how Photoshop is used, right? Exactly. Okay, so just as you can see now, so this is the properties, and then it's just giving you the properties about the particular thing that you've selected on that layer, and then you can change a lot of things with it. Okay, now I think we are done with the panel side, so let's go and talk about the tools. Okay, this is what you'll be using most often. So think about the tools as the pencils, the erasers, the pens, the colors, all those things that you'll be using in your canvas. Okay, if you're an artist, the things that you'll be using in your canvas. Okay, think about those things like that, right? So let me delete all these things. So that I'll be left with an empty canvas. Okay, so excuse me, hold on. So let's say we have this empty canvas here, right? We have this empty canvas here, and then we have these two panels here. Okay, so these two panels would basically help you to paint on your canvas or work on your canvas. Do you get a concept? So for instance, let's start with the two panel one by one, and then take note, the two panels have sub tools under them. Okay, so for instance, if you come to the move tool, when you don't click on it and then just put your mouse icon on it, take note, it's going to indicate the type of tool and then what it does. So just as you can see, Photoshop itself will give you an indication of what that tool does. Okay, but if you right click, okay, it's going to give you the sub tools under it. So looking here, you can see that we have the move tool and we have the artboard tool. Let me pick a different one. So let's say we go here, we right click, it's going to give us the brush tool, pencil tool, other things. Let me come to the shapes. Okay, so if I come here, it's just going to give me the name, but when I right click, it's going to give me the sub tools that we have under them, right? Exactly. So let's start with the move tool. So what does the move tool do? So let me come to this panel. So the move tool basically moves things, just as you know, and then that is one of the tools that you often be using. Okay, so for instance, let's say I want to, let me bring something here, let me convert this into its original layers. Okay, so let's say I want to move this. Okay, I'll just click on it and then I'll move it around, right? That is basically how the move tool works. You just click on something and then you move it around. Let me see if I'll get a PNG image. Okay, so let's use this for an example. So for instance, I want to move this picture around where the position it's at, I don't like it. So what I can just do is to click on it, and then you can see when I click on it, it will indicate its layer here, right? It will indicate its layer here, and then I can move it around. Okay, you just double click, hold it, and then you move it around, right? Double click, hold it, and then you move it around, just as you can see me do. You double click, hold, and move it around. So let's say I want to move this particular image down here. When I click on it, it's going to open in the layers panel, right? I'll double click on it and then move it around, right? Just double click and then move it around. Similarly, if I want the text to move, the text were written in different distance, so I want to move just the Y, I'll double click and then just the Y will move, right? Now let's say if by mistake you've done anything that you just want to reset, you hit on Ctrl Z and then everything is just going to undo, right? Okay, so I think we are set with the move tool and what it does, right? So the move tool just moves things around, just as you can see. Now let's go to the triangular tool that we have here. Okay, this is some sort of like a selection tool, and then I often don't use this, but it's just a selection tool. So if I click on it, I have the ability to just do this, and then it's going to select whatever I have there, right? It's just going to select it. So if I go to the move tool right now, and then I'm to move this, you can see because of the selection I've done, you just see what is happening there. Wait on Ctrl Z, and then we are back to normal, right? I don't often use this tool here, So let's move to the next tool, which is the lasso tool. Okay, the lasso tool is actually used to make selections. Let me see if I'll see a picture that I can make selection. So let's say I have this image here, right? I have this, oh, ew, don't look at the teeth. So I have this image here, right? And then I want to make a selection of the teeth, right? You can just use the lasso tool. So you click, you move, you click. It just works like the pen tool, right? So when you move, you write, you just click, you move, you click, you move, you click. I'm just doing rough selections, but then you get a point. So you just select the teeth like this. And when it comes to the final, you can see that it would now select everything that you have there, right? Or now select everything that you have there. So if I do this, you see, it has selected everything that I have there, right? So if I'm to create a new layer, we'll talk about this later again. So if let's say I'm to create a layer out of this, so let me hit Ctrl J. You can see that a new layer has been created out of it, right? And if I turn on the main layer, you can see that that is just the teeth that we have here, right? This is just the teeth that we have here. I don't know if you are getting the concept. So the lasso tool, its sub tools, we have the polygonal tool, we have the magnetic lasso tool. They are all selection tools, right? They just work like the pen tool, where you can use to select objects and then you work with those particular objects, right? Let's go back. So if we come back, even in this selection, if I am to, let me come to image. If I'm to come to adjustment and then I'm to lower the brightness of everything, you can see it's just lowering the brightness of the particular selected area. So that's how the lasso tool works, just enhancing a particular selected area, right? And then if you want to unselect, you just hit on Ctrl D and then it would unselect the selection that you've done. Now let's move to the selection tool. The selection tool just works like the lasso tool, but then it's quite better than the lasso tool. And that is when you click and then you double click and then you drag, it's going to do some selections, right? When you double click and then you drag, it's going to do some selections. But let's say I've done a selection that I don't like. When you look at the options bar here, just as I told you, it gives you options. There's this minus selection here. So if I click on this and then I drag and I select, you can see that it limits the selection, right? Similarly, if I go to the plus, it's going to add some selects. I want to select the dress. Do you get the concept? Do you get it? So these are the options that you have here. And also I could have just, let me click on Ctrl D to unselect. When you select the selection tool, you see there's an option to select the subject. So let's say you just want to select the subject for something. So you can just select the subject by clicking on it like this. And then when you take your time, it's going to analyze and then select your subject for you, right? Let's say you want to select the subject and max it. You can just click on select and max. And then just as you can see, it's going to remove the background, right? So basically, this is what this selection tool does, right? This is what the selection tool does. Let me hit on Ctrl D. Okay. Let me just tackle the important tools. Not all tools would you use. So let's say we have the crop tool here. The crop tool, just as you know, in your image editing apps, crop is just used to crop any part. So let's say I don't want this particular part, I'll just crop this particular part out. I just crop this part, and when I hit enter, it has been cropped, right? Let me hit Ctrl Z. You just can see. Let's do it again. So crop, close, enter, and then it will crop it, right? And then let's go back to the selection tool. When you double click, when you right click on it, you can see that we have other selection tools. We have the option select tool, the object select tool, and we have the magic wand. Okay, these things are all selection tools. So if I hit on this, I've now selected the object selection tool. Similarly, we have options like to select the subject, select and max. But you see, if I do this, that is its work. It just selects objects, particular image. So let's say you want to remove something from Photoshop, you just select that particular thing using the object select tool, right? So you just select it by using the object select tool. Okay. So just as you can see, it has selected the part that I wanted to select. Let me just go on Ctrl D. So let's go back to whatever we are doing. Now let's go to the eyedropper tool. Now what does the eyedropper tool do? So for instance, let's say you have this. Okay, let me use this canvas, and then you have this blue color here, right? And then you want to get this blue color for your text on a different work or anything of that sort. Or let's say you want to use this particular blue color, but then you don't know the color code for this particular color. So you can use the eyedropper tool to select, to get that particular color. So just as you can see, if I click on that particular area, this color is now changing to that particular color, right? Let's do a different example. So if I select the red here, just as you can see, it has changed. If I select the black, it changes. right? So let's say there's a beautiful color that you want to use in your work, but you don't know the color code, or when you are looking here it becomes very difficult to get that particular color. You can just use the eyedropper and then select your reference image, okay, and then it's going to give you that particular color, right? That's what the eyedropper tool does, and it has sub tools under them which you can check out later, but as a beginner these are the tools that you'll be needing. Okay, now let's come to the patch tool. Okay, and let's see what a patch tool does. So the patch tool, just as you know, when we say something is a patch, it's like a cover to something. Okay, so for instance, if I select the patch tool here and then I just make a select, so I'll double click and then select, let's say, the head, right? And I want to replace the head with, let's say, a different thing like this blue color. What you can do is to just double click and then drag, and then you can see it will replace it with the blue color that I have there, right? Just as you can see there, right? Let's use it for a better scenario so you get the concept very well. So for instance, let's say let me just let me bring this image in here. Yeah, sorry. So maybe we've done this, we can go back and then reset essentials. Okay, so let's use the part two. So for instance, we have, let me bring one image in like that. So let's say we bring this image in here like this. We bring this image in, and let's say we want to replace the teeth of this person with my teeth or something like that. So you can just hit the patch tool. You can zoom in by pressing Ctrl and then a plus on your keyboard. So you can just make a selection at this point, right? And then you drag. Okay. Oh, sorry. So it's supposed to be on this layer. And then you drag here. And then just as you can see, it would replace it with a particular area that I've selected here, right? So just as you can see, this is how it works, right? So we'll replace it to that particular area. So oftentimes this, how should I say it? This patch tool is often used for how should I say, acne or other things. So for instance, let me go back to this image, right? Just as you can see, this guy has an acne here, right? So I can just use this patch tool to select this particular spot here, and then I'll drag it to a neat place in his skin. Okay, now when I hit Control, you can just see now that particular distance is gone. Let's see before, let's see after, before, after, right? You can just see that selection made there. You get it? So that is how it works. So you just select that acne or that small thing that you want to change, and then you select a rightful area to replace it, right? So that's how the patch tool works. It's just like a replacer, right? Exactly. Now let's move to the other tools that we have. I won't tackle the sub tools that are in. I'll just tackle the main tools here because those are the ones that you'll be using. So now with the brush tool, just as you know, the brush tool is used for brushing or painting. Let's say I want to color this, so you can just go like this, paint. So you just click and then you just do your painting, coloring, anything of that sort, right? So let's say you've painted here blue, you want to change the color, you just come to this color panel here. You hit on, let's say, the color, and then you select the particular color you want. Let me make it green. So I'll select this green, and then just as you can see, right, change it to red. You can just select this red. Okay, and then do you get a concept now? So basically this is how it works, right? This is how it works. The brush tool works in Photoshop. Now this clone stamp tool just works like the patch tool. So you just select a particular part. So you select a particular, hold on, so you just select a particular part and then it will clone it, right? So just as you can see, when I select it, it would clone the other parts that I want to clone, right? So it's just like if I select this part, it will clone this part. So if I press Alt on my keyboard and then I leave it, it will clone the other part with the part that I want to do. I don't often use this tool, so let's just move on from this tool. So we have the erase tool, okay, and the erase tool is basically just used to erase things, just as the name goes. So if I do this and I clean, it's going to erase. And then take note, it's going to erase with the color that you have here on your background, right? It's going to, so if I change it to white and I erase, it's going to change into white, right? If I change it into black, and then let me make it black, and then I erase, it's going to change it into black, right? So basically that's what the erase tool does. And then take note, the erase tool would only erase on what is on that particular layer. Okay, so if you look at the layers panel that we have here, let me open it up a bit. So if you look at the layers panel that we have here, currently I've selected this particular image. Okay, so if I erase this, there's no way this is going to erase, right? Because I'm still with the erase tool, but then there's no way this is going to erase because I'm not on that particular layer. Okay, but then if I clean this is going to erase. Do you get the concept now? This image is going to erase because I'm on that particular layer down here. If I move to this layer and now I erase this, you can see this is also erasing, but the text is not erasing. So that is how it works. This is the erase tool and that is what it does. Okay, let's go back. Okay, now we can come to the pen tool. I'll be neglecting some of the tools that I don't use. I just want you to get the basics very fast. So when you come to the pen tool, it's just a selection tool as well. So the pen tool just works like the lasso tool and the other tools that we spoke about earlier. Okay, so it's just used to make select. So let's say I want to select this particular spot. Okay, so you just use it for the selection. I'll make actual videos on these individual tools so that I get to understand them and then appreciate them better, right? Okay, so that's what a pen tool does. It's just used to select. The text tool just used to text, just as we did earlier. So let's say we type anything of that. So let me just use subscribe. If I do that and click enter and click escape, it's going to write it down. Okay, and let's say if I want to move it, I'll just go to the move tool and then move it. Okay, so that's how it works. You come to the text tool to type anything. So let's say like, right? If you do this, you can't move it with the text tool on. Okay, if I do this, it's going to add another text. Okay, if I do this, it's going to add another text. But if I go to the move tool, that is what is going to move it. Do you get it? And let's say I want to change the font, just as I showed you earlier. You can click on it and then go to its properties, right? The properties is not showing, so you just go to Windows and then you check properties on, right? Check properties on, and then it will now begin to show in your workspace, right? Let's reset this. So the properties tool here. So if you click on this, we're on this particular layer, which is this subscribe layer. So if you come to the properties, we can now come and change. Let's say we want to change its color. So we change it to, let me make it black. So we change it to black. You get it? And then this is now the color of it, right? So the properties is used to change the properties of it. And another way you can do is to just double click on this. And when you double click on it and you go to the pen tool, you have the chance to change the color and things here too. But with that one, you have to highlight it first, right? So you can do it here as well. So let me make it yellow now. Yellow, right? Okay. Click on escape. So you can see what is happening there now, right? Okay. Let's zoom out. Okay, what other tool are we left with? Okay, this other tool is very important, which is the shape tool. Okay, so this one, let me open it. So if you right click, you're going to see the circle, triangle, polygon, line, all those things, right? So if I click on this square, what it's going to do is that it's going to make a square out of the color that I have in my foreground, which is this red, right? But if I don't like it, what I'll do is I'll just go to the properties of it and then change that color. So just take note, the properties is just used to change the properties or to see the properties that you have there. Okay, so I can just right click and then click on the circle, the ellipse tool, and then I'll just create a circle like this, and then we'll create it. You get a concept? So basically this is how it works, right? And if I want to move it, you just go to the move tool and then you can move it here, right? The magnify tool is just used to zoom, and then you can click on these three dots to get all the other tools that you have within this, right? If you right click, you can get all the other tools that you have within this space here, right? Okay, let me click on done. Okay, so basically this is Photoshop for you. And then when you come here, these places also have their properties. So you have the delete. You can delete a layer here, you can add a new layer here, you can create a new layer here. There are other adjustment layers. All these things you need to take time to learn them, but as a beginner, this that I've taught you would help you navigate Photoshop very well. Okay, so let's just do a recap to see if you recall everything that we've done so far, right? Okay, so let's create a new workspace. So we'll go to home, we'll click on file, we'll select this one. So let's say we want to select this, so we'll select this, right? And let's say we want to bring an image of a person, right? And then we'll add a text like comment, like, and subscribe. Okay, for now, let's do that for now. Okay, so the first thing is to get the image of that particular person. So let's say this image here, I want to use my image here, right? Now, how do I get to move this image to that particular area where I'm doing it? And looking here with this canvas here, these are all the works that I'm doing. So if I click at this, my first work, second work, third work, and then for you get a concept. You get a concept. Let me not save this, right? So let's say I want to bring this image onto this particular canvas, this new canvas here. So I'll just click on this new workspace, right? Double click on this, hold it whilst with the move tool selected, right? Double click on this, move this, come here, and then drag and drop it in here, right? I'll drag and drop so you can see now this image is now part of my new workspace. And if I want to enlarge this, I'll just click on Ctrl T, right? If I click on Ctrl T, I can just enlarge this, right? Ctrl T, and I'll just enlarge this. Okay, so I now have this here, right? And let's say I want to change the color. Now what can I do? I can change the color by going to this particular place, going to the properties, and then changing it. Or another thing that I can do also is to select the rectangular tool, because looking at the shape here of the background is rectangular, right? And I'll draw a rectangle covering the entire background, right? Now just as you can see, it's beneath me, and then we've changed it into red, right? But take note, maybe when you did yours might be on top like this. It's just the arrangement of the layers, just as I told you earlier. So you just bring this first layer down here, and then your image would be on top. So it's just a matter of stacking the layers accordingly. Okay, so what you want to see on top, you bring it on top. It's that simple. You get, let's say you want to change the background, right? You want to change the background, so you just click on that particular rectangle, and then you click on properties, you go to the color, and then you change the color. So let's say we want to pick brown, any color that we want, right? Let's say we want to choose this red, right? So we select this particular color. Okay, and this is what we have. I want to type like, comment, and subscribe. Now what do we use for the typing? The type tool, which is here, the text tool, right? So you just click on it, you come here, and then you clean what is originally there, and then you type subscribe, right? When you are done, you press escape on your keyboard, right? Now let's go to like again. So like, escape, you click on it, you clean whatever they have there with the backspace, and then you type comment, right? Comment, and then you just move out of this, right? So let's say we want to arrange this comment, like, and subscribe, or maybe enlarging them or anything of that sort. Okay, what you do is, you see there are now layers here, they've now been made layers here. Okay, so if I hit on the subscribe and I click on Ctrl T, if I hit on the subscribe and click on Ctrl T, I have the ability to enlarge the size of this, right? I have the ability to enlarge the size like this. Click on enter. And if I want to move it to maybe the right, I can just double click on it and then move it to the right, just like that. Okay, and let's say you want to add the like, you click on the like, you can click on it here, or then you click on it here, but make sure auto select is turned on, because if auto select is not turned on, it will just move that particular layer that you are working with. Okay, it might be handy in some circumstances, and then we'll make separate videos about all those things. With this, we just wanted to get the basics and then maybe start creating some good thumbnails or something like that. Okay, so we can move the like here. If we want to enlarge it, what do we press? Control on our keyboard and T, right? And then we just enlarging it like this by clicking on the corners. You just come to comment, click on it, Control T, enlarging it, drag it here like this. Okay, so we have this, right? And let's say we want to put a shape, a circular shape at this particular spot. What do? We go to this rectangular tool, we'll right click on it, and then we'll see this circular shape here, this ellipse tool, right? And what you do is you now draw this circular shape. Okay, but then just as you can see, it's covering this, the text that we wrote initially. And why is that so? When you look here, you can see that the ellipse tool is on top of the text that you've written. So what you can do is you just double click on it and then drag it down beneath the text, right? Like this. And just as you can see, the text go behind it. Let's say you want to change the color to yellow, you just go to the properties of, you make sure you're on that ellipse tool, go to properties, fill, you change that color to maybe yellow or something like that. Do you get a concept now? And this is how to work with Photoshop. Okay, it's just a matter of understanding all the tool sets that you have here and then working with them. Okay, so just look for any design and then just start practicing. Okay, look at the number of layers that have been stacked to it and just start practicing with them, and then I believe this video will just be as good as I think it would be to you. And then without much ado, just hit the subscribe button and comment if you're having any challenge, and I'll do all to explain it to you. But then I'll be making simple tutorials explaining each detail or each tool in Photoshop so you don't get confused. This is just a beginner friendly tutorial to get you started with, and don't forget to do these three things: comment, like, and subscribe. Until then, peace, and I'm out.